Well, hello, and happy Thursday, everyone. Super excited to be here with you today. For those of you who are not sure where you are and who you're listening to or watching, you're currently watching or listening to Joanne's Healing Within. I am your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, your holistic integrative teacher, Reiki master, Reiki teacher, card creator, card reader, licensed and certified holistic personal trainer, founder of Holistic Fitness, located right here in New York, and medical astrologer. And there's so much more to my bio, but we'll leave it there for now. How's everybody doing today? How is everybody feeling and being? And did we all survive Valentine's Day? I think that's a funny question, right? Yes. Let's make note of our title for today, Why Boundaries Matter. And it's a really good topic, I believe, and I'm sure it's going to be. I want to remind you, if you missed the last episode, which is season 7, episode 24, oh my God, I cannot believe we're already there. If you missed that last episode, know that you could definitely go and watch it on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch TV. You can also listen to it on Spotify, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Woohoo! Yes, you can. And it was an amazing show. I was actually the guest, and it was all about the cosmic directory to health insurance. Yes. And I want to remind you before I dive into my partners that help make the show go week after week, that in order to guarantee that you do have health, it's really important to take your health in your own hands, which is why being healthy and strength training is your guaranteed health insurance. So all that being said, and I want to apologize for my lighting, it's a little dim. I didn't expect the sun to be still shining through, but it is what it is, right? Anyway, let me give a shout out to my amazing partners that do help make the show run week after week. We're going to start off with Joe Monkman. He is our personal development trainer. Then we have Kitty Budaway Foss. She's the storyteller of astrology and reader of the stars. Then we also have Tammy Moses. She is the podcast host and the founder of The Hoarding Solution. And by the way, she is our guest for today. I'm super excited for that. So there you have it. There you have it. All of my amazing partners. So, again, let's just take a breath for a moment. Let's just tap into the energy of today, considering it is Thursday. And in case you're not aware of this, every day of the week is ruled by a specific planet. And today, being it's Thursday, Thursdays are ruled by Jupiter's energy. So this is a great day for an expansion. And currently, Jupiter is in Taurus energy, which is about the relationship that you have with others, yourself, your physical and material possessions, and of course, your physical body. Now, with that being said, and Jupiter being the ruler of Thursday's energy, the moon is currently in Taurus as well. So there's a lot going on there. I like to believe that anytime we have multiple planets sitting in one sign, that particular sign gets lit up. And for those of you who have sun, moon, or rising, which is also known as your ascending sign in Taurus, there's a lot going on there for you. You have an expansion happening, and then you may be dropping into your feelings as well. In addition to both Jupiter and the moon being in Taurus energy, I want you to also be aware that Venus is the ruling planet to Taurus energy, in addition to Libra as well. And Venus is about love, relationships, beauty, money, value, how you value yourself, your self-worth as well. And I think that really falls really nicely into the topic for today of why boundaries matter, with all this energy that we do have sitting in Taurus energy right now. So what I like to do before we go further is I'm going to pull a card for you to help you connect with your chakras, help you do perhaps get a word that you can use for your day as a mantra. And let's see what numbers show up for us today. So let's go over all of that. I know it sounds like a lot, right? Yeah. All right, one more shuffle. Let's play this through. Interesting card to be showing up. So for you people out there who are watching live, here is your card for the day. You can redeem a Reiki treatment for $22. So if you're interested in redeeming a Reiki treatment for $22. You can go ahead and email healingwithin76@gmail.com. In fact, there's a flyer with my QR code that you could definitely go ahead and scan. And those who are listening to the show, again, that email is healingwithin76@gmail.com. The Reiki treatment will be $22. You have 24 hours to go ahead and redeem this. So those of you watching live or even on the replay, you have 24 hours to redeem this for $22. It's the heart chakra. So this is about dropping into the heart and allowing your heart to be open to receiving whatever it is you wish to receive with all this Taurus energy. The double zeros is reminding you that you do have choices and a lot of potential going forward. So that's a great card to start the day off with, don't you think? All right, so all that being said, we're going to dive into a commercial. I'm going to bring that flyer back up for those of you who are interested in reaching out to me. I know we saw the flyer a few minutes ago. I'm sure it's going to hop up again. My flyer with the QR code on it. So those of you who wish to scan on it, you can. And if it doesn't pop up right away, no big thing. We're going to take that quick commercial break, and I will be back. And when I come back, I'm going to be introducing my guest for today. I'll be right back. All right, well, maybe it's not time for a commercial break yet. Maybe Bobby's got other things in mind. Anyway, I guess I'll just stay on until that commercial break happens. Meanwhile, tapping back into our card for the day, that heart energy, when we think about it, it really is about matters of the heart and how boundaries are going to play a big part in the matters of the heart. So, again, if you are interested in redeeming your Reiki treatment for $22, you have 24 hours from today to redeem that Reiki treatment for $22, whether you're watching it live or on the replay. So, not really sure what's going on in the background there. Anyways, I guess I'm going to keep going until somewhere along the line something shifts here. So as I was speaking about the energy of today being the moons in Taurus and Jupiter rules Thursday's energy. And that's not just for today, that's every Thursday, Jupiter rules this energy. Jupiter is about your expansion, not just your spiritual expansion. It's also your spiritual wisdom. And one last thing I want to bring to the table when we talk about Jupiter's energy regarding the expansion, it's also about expanding body weight. Now, I spoke a lot about this in the last episode. So if you did not catch that last episode, please go ahead and watch the last episode. Again, that was episode 24, season 7. You can catch that on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch TV. If you want to listen to it while you're driving, you can listen on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Audible as well. All right, let's see what's cooking. What is going on? Why am I not? Let's find out what is actually going on. What is cooking? What is going on? Let's see. I am ready for a commercial break. Is everything okay? Are we tuning in? I am confused. Anyway, let me just see. There we go. Commercial break.
Everything's fine, honey. Do your thing. You want to go to a commercial? What's the matter? What's the matter on your end?
Nothing's the matter. I was ready for a commercial break. Are we going to a commercial break?
When do you ask me? You tell me. You don't ask for a commercial break. You tell me. You're the host. We've been doing this for years, and you've never asked me to go to a commercial break. Go to the break.
I mentioned the commercial break 3 minutes ago.
You did.
Yes. Sure did. I let everybody know we were taking a commercial break. I don't know what happened to you.
Let's do it. Let's do it then. Go for it. You say it, and I'm going to do it.
All right. All right, folks. We're going to be taking that commercial break. So you can go get some water, and we'll be coming right back. And when I get back, we're going to share that card again, and then I'll be sharing my guest for today. Hello and welcome. I'm Joanne Angel Barry Colon, your holistic integrative teacher, licensed personal trainer, Reiki master, published author, and card creator. Let me take you down a path of direct communication with the physical body in order to become more aware and in sync with your soul. I will help you to observe and understand the language of the body as it regards to the needs of the soul. Join me on this journey of great expansion and a unique experience. I will help you integrate your mind, body, and soul as you move forward on your journey. For questions, readings, and self-growth discovery session, email healingwithin76@gmail.com. Hello and welcome back to Joanne's Healing Within. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Colon. And today's topic is all about why boundaries matter. And like I said, if you're just tuning in, you missed just a small segment on the first part of the show. I'm going to share with you the card of the day, which is what I always do. This card, the message here is about a Reiki treatment. So those of you who are watching live or even on the replay, you have 24 hours from today to go ahead and redeem a Reiki treatment for $22. You can go ahead and email healingwithin76@gmail.com to redeem your session. The chakra of the day is the heart energy, which is opening your heart up so you can receive whatever there is that you're looking to receive at this time. So there's your card. Super excited to share that with you. And I'd like to bring in my guest, Tammy Moses. She and I are going to have an amazing conversation. Hello, my darling. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm loving the topic, why boundaries matter. So how did you come up with that topic? Just to dive into that first, and then we're going to really introduce who you are and what you do.
Well, I think about boundaries like fences. Good fences make good neighbors. And I think good boundaries keep us healthy so that we function well, and that allows other people to function well also. And so I think that it's an important conversation to have, because a lot of people, and I can speak from my own experience, didn't necessarily grow up having that modeled, or didn't really learn how to make boundaries or set them well. So now I think that it's just important for people to understand that it's okay to have some kind of limit on what you will tolerate.
And I think that's great. I love that. Idea about having a fence to separate our neighbors and ourselves, to have boundaries where they know that when that gate is closed, they're to knock before they decide to walk in. That's a great idea. I love that. Tammy, tell us a little bit about what it is you do. Your podcast. Let the audience know a little bit about you.
Well, I focus on the issue of excessive clutter and hoarding, and more specifically, how that impacts us in our relationships and in our homes. Often people, like if you're in a relationship with someone, and it could be a roommate, it could be a loved one, it could be a parent or your own kid maybe, and one of you might have a little more clutter bug tendency than the other, and that can cause friction in your home environment. And being able to talk about what is the issue there and resolve it will create more harmony in your home. And so I have found people are able to restore relationships when they focus on creating a better environment that they are trying to expose people to. And I talk about it on the podcast, the Hoarding Solution podcast as well, in some of my experiences growing up with parents that had hoarding issues, and now dealing with an elderly parent that has this issue. And it can be really challenging to navigate these situations. And a lot of times that conversation isn't the primary thing that we are talking about. A lot of times the hoarding issue is the elephant in the room, as well as how that impacts relationships. And I feel part of my task here on this journey is to talk about these things and help other people also know they're not alone, and that you can choose something different. And any moment you can choose something different.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And and in regards to boundaries and also hoarding for that matter, I get a sense that there's a connection there in regards to someone that may have a hoarding. I don't know if we want to use the word issue or challenge, whatever the word we want to use, in regards to maybe not being able to set a boundary, and that could be how they set their boundary. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think that there can be a lot of people pleasing involved with these things, where you don't want to say no to something because you're afraid someone will be offended, um, or so I've seen this come up a lot recently around the issue of gifting and receiving gifts that you maybe don't need, didn't ask for, can't use, yet you feel somewhat guilty about moving it along, whether that's sharing it with someone else, or if it's coming from an extreme hoarded situation, you may have to toss the item because it may not be salvageable, may have an odor. But I see it a lot with, what do I do with these things I don't need? Or what are these, and it could be gifts you got 10 years ago and you don't want to get rid of it because you have an attachment to that item because of who gave it to you. And the thing that's really coming up for me right now is a cookie jar that was my grandma's. And
as you're saying it, I'm running in my head a list of like all the things that are sitting in my closet, considering what is it now? I think just about maybe 7 months ago that I moved into my new place, and took some stuff with me. And in the process of when we move, and most people do this, we declutter things, and then we sometimes don't declutter things because, just like Tammy's saying, there's memories that we hold with whatever the things are. And it's like, okay, do I want to hold on to this? Do I want to get rid of it? Do I want to take a picture of it and save it? And that whole thing goes through. So just as you're saying what you're saying, it's like I'm running in my head like, yeah, I have a lot of that stuff.
And the thing is that it isn't in itself, it's not bad to have that attachment or that memory or that desire to keep the item. But when you get to a point when you can't use your space anymore because of all the things you've collected over time, that can be an issue that you have to deal with. And moving is a great example of, hey, I don't think I want to do this. I moved a couple years ago, and I started looking at things as, I don't want to look at this thing again. I don't want to have to make this decision later. And that helped me to kind of clarify, what am I taking with me? And I still ended up with stuff at the end that I donated and did whatever, but it really came down to, I don't want to deal with it anymore. And like I was talking about the cookie jar thing. And so at the time, a few years ago, I gave it to my boyfriend, right? And now I realize we moved and we're moving into a new house. And I'm like, that cookie jar is actually still here. And it's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just, I'm realizing I do have some attachment to it. And maybe it's not so bad that I gave it to someone and I'll be seeing it again. But if you have 100 cookie jars and that's all over your counter, and you can't cook or you can't wash dishes or you can't function, you might have to reconsider how many of those do you actually need. And as you mentioned, could I take a picture of each of them and maybe write down a little story about how I got it or who it came from, and then move it along? Like, and it's okay to learn to release some of those things, but it can become a boundary issue when, maybe someone has been giving you all those cookie jars, and now you've decided to stop. You've decided to stop collecting them, but yet the person in your life keeps bringing them to you.
Yes, because they don't even stop collecting them yet.
Right. So how do you navigate that? And sometimes people will continue, even though you expressly said, hey, I'm not collecting these anymore. I don't have room. I'm downsizing. I'm moving. But people don't necessarily hear what you're saying.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of times people think they set boundaries so other people will obey. But it's not. You can't make other people do it. It's what will you tolerate and how will you handle it? And, you know, that's what you have to look at. And how do you want to operate? How do you want to be, you know, going forward? And I think a lot of times that's a hard thing for people to recognize, that the boundary is about what you'll tolerate, not to force other people to do something.
Exactly, exactly. In fact, for me, what I started doing, oh my God, probably about maybe 5 years ago, during Christmas and even my birthday, and more specifically for Christmas, is for relatives that do want to buy me something. I give them a list of things. I give them like 3 items of things that I would like, and I give each person a different three set of items. I don't give the same 3 items, because then I'll get a whole lot of that. This way here, it possibly stops them from buying something for me that they think I would like, that ends up being more like a dust collector versus something I really wanted. So that was like my boundary setting, and it seems to be working, because I only really now get the things that I really want.
And being able to express that and not be afraid of their response to you is kind of where I fall, where like I'm responsible for what comes out of my mouth and what I say and what I do, but I'm not responsible for what other people do, and I can't stop them from buying something that's not on my list. But I can decide, hey, this isn't something I really am going to use, and I can pass it along and not feel guilty about that. But sometimes you'll have someone in your life who will come over and visit you and ask, hey, where's this thing I gave you? So how do you navigate that without offending someone, And so then it comes back to, how are you going to manage that situation? How are you going to have that conversation? And again, some people will hear you and other people won't. And you just have to decide how are you going to direct your energy about this situation. And even that in itself can be tiring to figure out, well, how are you going to do this without, causing issues? But sometimes, you have to cause an issue to get to where you're trying to go. And it doesn't have to be a big blowout, but it can be, especially if you're dealing with a hoarding situation. But, because there is this belief sometimes that everything the person who hoards, they want to give to their kids, and they want their kids to be okay with that. Yes. And the kid doesn't have to be okay with that. And exactly. That could cause rifts between people. And I understand sometimes the China or the hutch or the thing, whatever it is, can be there's a legacy there. There's history there. And the parent doesn't want to just put it on the side of the road or donate it or whatever. But still, the adult kid has the right to say, hey, I don't really want this thing. Maybe give it to someone else. Maybe donate it somewhere. Maybe take a picture, and sell it. Like, there's other ways for you to move it along without burdening the people who are telling you, hey, I really don't want this thing. Thank you, but no.
Exactly. And sometimes too, even with boundaries and being, let's say, fearful of hurting somebody's feelings, sometimes a part of the boundary process is being truthful, being straight up truthful to the person and say, look, I don't want the clutter anymore, or I'm not collecting that anymore, and I just don't need that anymore. And whether they hear it or not, again, as you've mentioned, is really not your job about it. And if they do continue to buy you the same items all the time, again, we freely have the right to say, okay, well, I'm just going to donate this over to somebody else. So, yes, I'm loving this topic of boundaries, because I think boundaries are a really big and important process for everybody, especially nowadays, in order to honor who we are and honor all the people that we are around as well.
And it's really about maintaining some kind of sanity. It's about maintaining some kind of privacy. And I think with our spillover now to work and home and all since in the last few years, I think even that is an important piece of it, to figure out, am I going to stop working at a certain time? Am I going to just go with the flow? Which room am I going to allow my employer to see?
Yes.
Or other people or your clients, like, and there, there's some laughter about, the cat ran its rear through my thing, or I didn't do my hair, or I'm not ready to be on camera. But, that's all very valid for you to look at. And if you can create a space, even if it's a corner, that you're comfortable sharing with other people, then I think that's perfectly acceptable. I don't feel like the entire world needs to see every room in my house if I don't choose to show that.
Exactly.
And even just like, how many pets am I going to have? Where am I going to live? How am I going to live? Like, and especially if you're young and you're just figuring this out. Of course, I'm older and I'm still figuring it out. But if you're if you're trying to navigate some of these things, it's okay to look at what's acceptable to you, and it can be challenging if you have a roommate, or if you're in a dorm, or even if you go in the military and you have a roommate. Like, there's the military standards, but there's also, what's your personal standard? What are you willing to tolerate? And I think you really have to look at also, how are you contributing to it?
Exactly.
Are you giving mixed messages, which can totally happen,
Yes, exactly. So what we're going to do before we go further, because there's so much to this topic of boundaries and setting boundaries, and when to set boundaries, and how do we feel about boundaries, and who likes us when we have boundaries and who doesn't like us when we have boundaries. So what we're going to do is, Tammy, just let everybody know how they can reach you. There is a flyer with this information on it as well.
So you can reach me at thehoardingsolution.com, and I have a podcast called The Hoarding Solution, and also I have a group on Facebook, The Hoarding Solution Community, where you can join us, where we talk about all this stuff.
Excellent. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and we're going to share some more about boundaries and how this topic today is in really a perfect timing. I'm going to share a little bit about that too. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, Kitty Beauty Foss, the storytelling astrologer, reader of the stars, and I'd like to invite you to join me on Intuition of the Soul on Facebook, a free private Facebook group where I post a daily energy reading all about how you can navigate your day. Also reach out at intuitionofthesoul11@gmail.com if you want a personalized reading to find out about how your circuitry works. Namaste.
Hey, this is Joe Monkman, and I am a personal development trainer. And that means that I help people step into their leadership roles, take their place as a visionary, really understand their own mastery in the world so that they can really find their place at the buffet of life. And if you want to know more, you can find me on my Facebook page at Joe Monkman and joemonkman@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome back to Joanne's Healing Within. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne. If you did miss the first two segments, know that you can always go back and watch on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch TV, and for those who listen, you can listen on Spotify, Audible, or iHeartRadio. I'm going to bring my guest back, Tammy Moses, as we chat about why boundaries matter. And just before we were going to commercial break, I had said that this topic was such perfect timing. And what I mean by that is, as I said earlier in the introduction, based on all the energy we have going on, Venus, the planet of love, relationships, beauty, money, and how we value ourselves, plays a big role in creating boundaries for ourselves in regards to being respected, being heard, being seen. And I'm going to say this word again, being heard. Sometimes we say things and people really don't pay much mind because of their boundaries or their lack of how the self-worth process of it all. So I thought this topic was so perfectly aligned. When Tammy sent me the title, I was like, oh, perfect. Because I'm sure there's lots of people out there right now that are really thinking about their relationships with themselves and with others, and how, when you were talking about people who are working from home, where do they have a boundary in reference that theoretically if they were working at a job at an actual place, when work is finished at, let's say, 5 o'clock, they literally go home. But if they're working from home and it hits 5 o'clock, do they still continue to work? And that is really about setting a boundary to say, work is finished. So for you, Tammy, when we speak about the boundaries matter, why do you think boundaries are so important? I mean, especially for hoarding, hoarding solutions and all the clutter that shows up. Why is it so important for that reason?
So what I have discovered is that often a loved one, the adult child, a neighbor, a friend, someone from a church or your place of worship, someone might be super concerned about someone that has a hoarding issue. And often they are the ones that see the issue. Not everyone that has a hoarding situation recognizes that there's a problem. Some people are more aware, I would say, but not everyone is. And so often the loved one or the friend or family member is really saying, how do I help this person? But that person doesn't want help particularly. So for many of the people I've worked with, we have to back up a little bit and ask, how are you doing? How much can you devote to this person? How is it going to impact your family? How is it going to impact your mental health? And many people are taken aback by that approach because they're really focused on, here's the problem over here. But it's kind of that thing where you can't pour from an empty cup. And if your assistance is going to completely deplete your energy and cause your relationships to suffer, then you have to really look at, what does help actually look like? And it could be, hey, I have a concern, Susie, and here's what I'm seeing, and I would love to at least let you know I care about you. And oh, by the way, here's a thing I came across on the internet, or I'm reading this book that I got at the library. You might like it too. And being supportive, but not necessarily being the one that steps in to save the day. And that can be hard to hear when you see someone who's really struggling, and in your mind, it would take, 2 days to clear it out. And you have to look at, what can you actually devote to that? At the same time, someone might be asking you for help, and you still have to look at, how can I actually help? What's going to be beneficial? And the other piece of that is you may have arrangements. You plan to go help this person on a Saturday. You're supposed to be there at 10. You guys agreed to work for 2 hours. And they call you or text you at 9:45 and say, I can't make it today. I don't feel well, which could be legitimate. But it's also a way to push off what needs to happen. And so you have to decide, okay, if they do that twice, am I going to offer a third time? Or am I going to say, hey, I've already offered twice and both times this happened. So here's this other resource I found. Let me know if you change your mind. And so you can not suffer and struggle and worry because you've already done that decent thing, right? You've already offered to come alongside them. And I experienced it myself when I was younger, when both my parents were living, where we had it all planned with a church group and all these things. And at the last minute, it was like, oh, I can't do that. It's not the right time. It might snow. It might rain. I'm not ready. And all those things could be valid for that person. But if you haven't dealt with the issue, if you've been able to have no limits placed on you for a long time, it can be very difficult to have someone come in and say, hey, we're going to do this today. And your approach about that matters, but that's kind of a different topic. But it is about what will you tolerate? Or if you're doing a cleanup, what will you provide? Will you bring trash bags? Are you paying for the masks? Who's paying for the dump fees? Like, if you get real nuts and bolts in that situation, those are boundaries to me. You determine how much you can devote. And the answer may be nothing. You may have no extra anything to devote to this situation, because a lot of times nothing really happens until it's a crisis, and you might already be in a crisis, or you might already have a lot of things you're managing, and you may not be able to take that on. And that can be we can feel really guilty, right? Like, we've known there's a problem, we've wanted to help, we can't. But guilt is kind of it can be motivating, but I don't find it to be the best motivator.
Yes, exactly. And even goes with what you are saying regarding when we talk about the boundaries and the clutter, the hoarding. You going into someone's home that obviously you see that they have a hoarding issue. The boundary for yourself is to recognize that, okay, I know I need to maybe step back and first find out if they are ready to even look at whatever it is that they have going on, to recognize. And not in their mind, they may not even see it as a hoarding issue. They may just see it as all that stuff that they do have. That's their boundary. That's how they create their own boundaries without actually saying, no, I don't want you over. And this is just general, not the person who's there right now. No, I don't want you over. So they figure that if they have a lot of stuff in their way, it prevents company from coming in. And that's how the person who does have a hoarding issue sets up their own boundary. So if we come in there looking to clean up their hoarding stuff, we may be actually destroying their process of their boundary. If we think about it in that way, it's like they may not be so quick to want our support because maybe unconsciously they're like, well, this prevents people from coming in because I don't have any space for people to be here.
And it's very true that it is a wall, it is a boundary around themselves, and they have been hurt by people. So if you don't let people in, those people can't hurt you. And the other part of it is their stuff, right? It is their collection. It is things they have gotten over time. And so it can be really difficult for them to allow anyone to come in there to help them at all. And the other part of it is there's usually underlying things going on and things that haven't most likely been addressed, whether it's trauma or depression or anxiety or loss of a loved one or a pet, or like there's all these things that are boiling underneath.
Yes.
And a lot of times people don't see the correlation between the anxiety they're experiencing and the amount of stuff that they have that they're trying to use to soothe. It's almost like a self-soothing thing, I think, sometimes. And my experience is, if you're in a position where you're ready for changes, things will go faster. If you are not, and you haven't prepared yourself in any way, things will go a lot slower. And
exactly.
There
and
can
think about
be
it
a lot
this
of
way.
anger.
Think about it this way. How many times, and I fall into this category as well, how many times in your lifetime that you're expecting company over, a friend or a family member, whatever not, and the night before or the day of, and this actually really falls true for like holiday season, where people are like going through this thorough cleaning, like they're putting things or organizing everything to make the house look quote unquote perfect, to get everything out of the way so people don't see what they actually have in their house. So it's like we're even setting up that boundary in reference to like, okay, I have to do this deep cleaning because I'm having company over. Because I want them to, I want them to see me in a certain light. That may not necessarily be what the certain light is.
And even that can be, I mean, there's stories of kids, right, that grew up and every time someone was coming over, they had to shove, you know, it was like a big deal, and they had to shove everything in their room or their closet so that it would present well to guests.
Yes.
But then, you know, within 48 hours after that event, it's right back to where it
was. Everything falls out the closet again.
and that can be, you know, that is something that, like, you learn how to do that. I mean, I learned, like, you could just shove everything in the laundry basket, right, and put it in the guest room and shut the door. Well, that's fine until you have 15 laundry baskets piled up with stuff you haven't dealt with. And then, you know, that becomes overwhelming, even if you don't have a hoarding issue and all you're doing is just moving the stuff out of the way. And so, and you know, I have, like, I feel like I'm hyper vigilant a lot of times about what other people will think or say about me based on my upbringing, right? Like, if they knew my history and they saw one dust bunny, they might think, oh, this person can't keep a house, right? And so I'm super focused on the dust bunny. In reality, nobody else is really paying any attention to that because they're enjoying the meal, or they're talking to other people, or they don't, people aren't as focused on that necessarily as we think they are. It's our own story that we're telling ourselves, that this person's gonna, you know, say I'm abusing my animals because I have a dust bunny, you know, which is completely unrealistic. But we go there, you know.
Exactly. All right, Tammy, let everybody know how they can reach you should they want to find out more about all those things you do as the founder of the Hoarding Solution.
So you can reach out to me at thehoardingsolution.com, and I have a blog there. Podcast episodes go there, and I'm happy to connect with folks.
Excellent. Just want to give a shout out to everyone who is watching. If you have comments or questions about the topic for today, which is all about why boundaries matter, and if you've set any recent boundaries, go ahead and put that in the comment. I'm sure Tammy and I would love to know what boundaries you are setting to keep your sanity as we speak. So we're going to be taking a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Tammy's going to share a tip or two on how to implement boundaries in a simple and easy way so it's not frustrating for you. So we'll be right back.
Hi everyone, Kitty Wig Foss, the storytelling astrologer, reader of the stars, and I'd like to invite you to join me on Intuition of the Soul on Facebook, a free private Facebook group where I post a daily energy reading all about how you can navigate your day. Also reach out at intuitionofthesoul11@gmail.com if you want a personalized reading to find out about how your circuitry works. Namaste.
Hey, this is Joe Monkman, and I am a personal development trainer. And that means that I help people step into their leadership roles, take their place as a visionary, really understand their own mastery in the world so that they can really find their place at the buffet of life. And if you want to know more, you can find me on my Facebook page at Joe Monkman and joemonkman@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome back to Joanne's Healing Within. If you are just tuning in, I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, and you have so far missed a really great show, but know that you can go back and watch on Roku, Amazon, Fire TV, Twitch TV, and if you listen to the show, you can listen on Spotify, Audible, or iHeart Radio. So I'm going to bring my guest back in, Tammy Moses. She and I have been chatting about why boundaries matter. And of course, our little kitty shows up. It's not a live show unless Sylvester is here. I always want to call the cat Felix, but his name is Sylvester. So Tammy, for you, if you could provide like one or two quick and easy tips on how one can implement some boundaries into their life regarding whether it's about relatives showing up or hoarding issues in itself, what boundaries, what tips do you have to offer us today?
So I would say simple is good. And I know we've been talking about stuff and hoarding, but I also see this coming up with people who might want more information than they need from you. And so it is perfectly acceptable to say something like, I have an appointment, I'll be back later today, versus I have to go run all these errands and then I have to talk to so-and-so and then I have to stop here. Like if that person doesn't need to know that information, you can really limit what you say. And if you're an oversharer or someone who's used to having a long conversation with the person in your life, you don't necessarily have to continue that if that person is using it against you or gossiping to other people or whatever. Like you can learn to just limit what you tell that person, and that's okay. The other thing is, I think around what do you tolerate? And you don't have to have that conversation with someone else. It's just you looking at what will maintain your sanity, what will keep you having that privacy. And earlier today, I was discussing this around boundaries are around civilization, right? That keeps us civilized. If we don't have some kind of boundary or rule of law, then we have anarchy. And while that might sound a little extreme, it can feel like we are in anarchy if we don't have some kind of limitation. You know, maybe that neighbor is someone that you'd like to visit with once a week, but not every day. And so maybe you can set a tea time, or you can do something that invites them in, but still gives you some structure around what you want. And I did have that experience where I had to figure out how much would I engage, and it's okay to do that. And if you happen to be dealing with a hoarding situation, a lot of people will say, well, you get to have one room that's hoard free. And I like to flip it and say that person can have their one room that they do whatever in, but the rest of the house should be enjoyable for everyone else that lives there. Yes. And so it's a matter of what's going on in your life, but what will you tolerate? And being aware that the boundary is for you and not to control other people. You can only control you. Therefore, the boundaries you set are about what you want to see or what you want to tolerate or allow.
Exactly. I love those. And I'm going to throw in one, and then after I throw in one, I'm hoping to give Tammy a card reading for some insight on whatever's going on in her life at this time. So my tip for boundaries, which I think is really important, and Tammy touched on this before, is if you, whether you're working from home or you're not working from home, having a boundary of learning to say no when you work. Whatever your work hours are, you work your work hours, and whatever your days off are, you have those days off as well, and not feeling guilted into having to cover someone else's shift just because you're afraid to say no, or you're afraid if you say no that you'll lose your job or whatever. Having that boundary and standing your ground, so this way here you can maintain a healthy relationship with yourself along with your actual job. So it's like bringing that balance between creating the balance and creating the boundary, and the balance between how many hours a day and how many hours a week am I working, so I get my other things into my schedule. So I think that's really important for setting a boundary. And as I said earlier, we are in a time right now, energetically, planetarily speaking, that boundaries are a really big thing. And there's many of us that are in that mindset right now of wanting to set boundaries for whatever the reasons to why you want to set your boundaries. But as Tammy says, and as her title is, boundaries do matter. They do matter, and they are going to help you shape things. And once you do set a boundary, you may find that not everyone's going to be very happy with the fact that you set a boundary, but you're not there to make them happy. You're there to make yourself happy and make things work better for you. So, Tammy, I want to thank you so much for the title today. I think this conversation was definitely needed, worthwhile, and I'm sure there's lots of people out there that's going to be sitting and evaluating whether or not they need to set boundaries. So thank you so much for that. Are you open to a reading?
Yes, I am, and thank you so much for having me. And I just want to add on that our families and our other loved ones and our pets and our volunteer, like all those things are important too. So that's why you have to look at your job situation, or no, I can't take that next shift, or whatever it is, because those things, are important too. And anyway, it makes me reflect on a job I had previously where there was a difference between being salaried versus non-salaried, and the management team seemed to forget that not everyone welcomed the 6 a.m. text, because they weren't like, you tell me what I need to do. I don't need to be involved with that. And so even that's a boundary that can be really hard, because you don't want to lose your job. There's a lot of fear there. So anyway.
All right, so let's take a breath. Nice deep breath in for you, Tammy. And as you exhale the breath, I want you just to focus in on something you would like some guidance on. You're not going to tell me what it is. And I'm going to pull a card and see what shows up. So the card, perfect card for the topic, by the way. I don't know if this is going to be aligned with her question, but new relationship. And what that just means is that by setting boundaries, you are setting a new relationship with yourself, because you are going to feel better and feel differently about yourself. Now, moving aside the boundaries and the topic for the day, the new relationship also for you, Tammy, is about your new partnerships that you're going to be bringing in. You're going to be receiving lots of new people coming in. That Q8 is 10, which is about your soul's work, the soul's work that you're here to do. So you're going to start to, what I like for you to hold for yourself as your vision is literally seeing a line outside your door of people that are looking to take on your services, looking to be on your podcast, and looking to share with you and share you out so you get more exposure. And in order for this to happen, very important to stay grounded, because this could become overwhelming when things start to get really, really busy. So ground your energy in the process. Does this resonate with you?
It does. It does a lot, actually. And I'm already seeing some of that, the fruition. And sometimes you think what you're doing doesn't matter. I know, I've thought it, but then things come around to show you that it does, even if there's, I guess, a dormant time. But that is an important piece too, right? Like, you can work on some of the things behind the scenes when you're a little more dormant, but which to me is about grounding also. Like, you have more time to be grounded when you are stepping back a little bit for whatever reason.
Yes. Excellent. I love it. Tammy, go ahead and let everybody know how they can reach you one last time, because we're towards the end and it's been an amazing conversation.
So you can find us at thehoardingsolution.com, and you can also find me on Facebook, Tammy Moses, and you can join us in the Hoarding Solution community as well.
All right. Tammy, once again, thank you so much for sharing your amazing brilliance with us and bringing this amazing title to the table, Why Boundaries Matter. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and when I get back, I'm going to have the conclusion of today's show. Once again, Tammy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joanne.
Hello and welcome. I'm Joanne Angel Barry Colon, your holistic integrative teacher, licensed personal trainer, Reiki master, published author, and card creator. Let me take you down a path of direct communication with the physical body in order to become more aware and in sync with your soul. I will help you to observe and understand the language of the body as it regards to the needs of the soul. Join me on this journey of great expansion and a unique experience. I will help you integrate your mind, body, and soul as you move forward on your journey. For questions, readings, and self-growth discovery session, email healingwithin76@gmail.com. Hello and welcome back to Joanne's Healing Within. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Colon, and you missed an amazing show, and you can always go back and watch from the very beginning on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch TV, YouTube, and of course Facebook. And you can listen on Spotify, iTunes, and Audible, and many other platforms as well. Want to dive in because a lot of my partners have many specials and promotions for you. So I'm going to dive right in, starting off with Joe Mockman, who is offering his Spirit Message class again, his 6-week course, so please look at the flyer. He also has his amazing fire ceremony class coming in this weekend on Saturday, so again, check out the flyer. Then we have Kitty Foss, who is offering on the 3rd Monday of every month, Words of Wisdom. That's a really fun class, and it's a great way to up your wording so you're not using lower vibration words. So definitely join in on that. And last but not least, I'm offering my Full Moon Circle taking place on the 25th of this month. For more information, feel free to email healingwithin76@gmail.com. There is a flyer. You can also hit that QR code in regards to anything that you wish to connect with me on. Feel free to do so. If you're listening, you can email healingwithin76@gmail.com. With all that being said, I look forward to seeing you all back here in 2 weeks. Until then, enjoy the amazing day that you're having. Many blessings. Namaste.